12 complaints, all black drivers, all on the same stretch of Route 9, all claiming the same thing, a sergeant who invented violations and took cash on the spot. The case finally made it to court. Sergeant Derek Calloway pointed at the black woman across the courtroom.
That woman is lying.
16 years in the police force, and not once had anyone doubted or opposed his word. He was the ruler of this town. Everyone had to obey his orders.
She fabricated every accusation against me.
The black woman did not react. No protest, no tears. She had waited weeks for him to do exactly this, lie under oath in his own voice on the record. He thought he had buried her. He had no idea this was the last testimony he would ever give. But to understand how Sergeant Calloway ended up in that courtroom, the story has to go back 6 months to a road, a badge, and a man who believed he could do whatever he wanted. Route 9 ran through the east side of Ridgemont, Virginia. 2 lanes, no streetlights past the county line. After dark, it was the only road connecting the black neighborhoods of Lindenwood and Greer Heights to the rest of town. Everyone used it. Everyone had to. Sergeant Derek Calloway had patrolled that stretch for 16 years. He knew every curve, every pullover spot, every gap in the tree line where a cruiser could sit with its lights off. He also knew something else. No one was watching. It started small. A taillight citation here, a speeding ticket there. Always black drivers, always after dark, always on the stretch with no cameras and no witnesses. But over the years, Calloway stopped pretending it was about traffic. He would flash his lights, pull a driver over, walk to the window, and give them a choice. Pay right here, right now, or get written up for something that would follow them for years. Most people paid $20, $40, sometimes $60. They paid because they were afraid. Because fighting a cop's word in Ridgemont meant losing every single time. But not everyone had cash. Marcus Redmond was 62 years old, retired postal worker. He drove Route 9 every Tuesday and Thursday evening to pick up his grandson, Elijah, from basketball practice. He had driven that road for years without trouble. On a Thursday night in March, Calloway pulled him over. Marcus did not have cash on him. He told Calloway he could pay a proper fine at the station. Calloway's expression changed. He ordered Marcus out of the car. Marcus asked why. Calloway grabbed his arm, pushed him against the hood, and cuffed him. The charge, resisting arrest. There had been no arrest to resist. No violation to cite. No evidence of anything. Just Calloway's word against a 62-year-old man standing alone on a dark road. Marcus went to court. Calloway testified. Calm, rehearsed, detailed. The judge believed every word. Marcus was convicted. The conviction followed him everywhere. His pension was suspended pending review. His landlord received a background check flag and declined to renew his lease. His daughter, already overwhelmed raising Elijah alone, told Marcus he could not stay with them while the case was on his record. She was scared of what the system would think of her son living with a convicted man. Marcus moved into a room above a laundromat on Chester Street. He applied for work at 3 places in 2 weeks. All 3 ran background checks. All 3 said no. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Marcus still drove to the school. But he did not go inside. He parked across the street and watched Elijah walk out with the other kids. He sat in his car with the engine off, waiting until his grandson disappeared around the corner. Then he drove back to Chester Street. He was not the only one. Darnell Price, 34. A delivery driver was pulled over on Route 9 and told to pay $40 on the spot. He refused. Calloway impounded his van. Darnell missed his shift. His company fired him the next morning, 3 late marks in 60 days, and the impound made 4. Sharon Okafor, 45. A home health aide was stopped twice in 1 month. The first time she paid. The second time she told Calloway she had already paid. He wrote her up for an expired registration that was not expired. She spent 2 days sorting it out at the DMV. She lost a client who could not wait. 12 complaints were filed with the Ridgemont County Sheriff's Office over 18 months. Each one described the same road, the same shift, the same officer. Internal Affairs reviewed the complaints. Their conclusion? Insufficient evidence to support the allegations. Calloway's record remained clean. The complaints did not disappear. They moved up. Slowly. Through a regional civil rights office. Through a federal referral process. Until they landed on a desk at the FBI's Civil Rights Division in Washington. The file was thin. 12 statements, no recordings, no physical evidence. Just 12 people telling the same story about the same man on the same road. It was assigned to Special Agent Isabel Ogden. Isabel Ogden opened the file on a Monday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, she had read every complaint twice. The details were almost identical. Pulled over after dark, Route 9 east of the county line. Told to pay on the spot. Those who paid were let go. Those who refused were written up, impounded, or arrested. 12 people, 12 versions of the same story. The only variable was how much it cost them. But what struck Isabel was not the pattern. It was what happened after. Marcus Redmond had not stayed quiet. 2 months after his conviction, he put on his only suit and drove to the Ridgemont County Board meeting. He waded through 14 agenda items. When public comment opened, he stood up and walked to the microphone. He told them what happened, the stop, the demand, the cuffs. He kept his voice steady. He did not raise it once. The board chair looked at the clock. "Sir, public comments are limited to 3 minutes." Marcus had been speaking for 2 minutes and 40 seconds. "I lost 3 years of my pension," Marcus said. "I lost my home. My grandson does not know who I am anymore. I am asking you to look at this man's record." The chair thanked him for his time. No board member asked a follow-up question. No one requested the case file. The meeting moved to budget allocations. Marcus sat back down. He stayed until the end. Then he drove back to Chester Street. He came back the following week. Same suit, same seat, same microphone. This time the chair did not even let him finish. She told him the matter had already been addressed through the appropriate channels. Marcus asked which channels. She moved to the next agenda item. He came back a third time. This time no one acknowledged him at all. He sat through the entire meeting, walked to the microphone during public comment, and the chair skipped directly to adjournment. Marcus stood there with his mouth open and his hands on the podium. The room emptied around him. He found a civil rights attorney named Diane Holloway in Richmond. She took the call. She listened for 40 minutes. When Marcus finished, she said something no one else had said. "I believe you." But she also said something else. "Belief is not evidence, Mr. Redmond. I need recordings, documents, something physical. Right now it is your word against a decorated officer with a clean file." Marcus had nothing. No dashcam, no recording, no witness willing to come forward. The other victims had the same problem. They had all been alone on that road in the dark facing one man with a badge. Their word was all they had. And in Ridgemont, that word carried no weight. Meanwhile, Calloway's life had not changed. The department awarded him a community service commendation at the annual ceremony. He shook the sheriff's hand on stage. The local paper ran a photo, Calloway smiling, badge-polished American flag behind him. The caption read, "Sergeant Derek Calloway recognized for 16 years of dedicated service to Ridgemont County." That photo ran on page 3. On page 11 of the same paper, a 2-paragraph brief mentioned that the county had received several complaints regarding traffic enforcement on Route 9. No name, no details, no follow-up. Calloway did not slow down. In the 3 months after the commendation, 4 more drivers were stopped on Route 9. Same stretch, same method, same choice, pay or suffer. One of them was a 22-year-old nursing student named Terrence Odom. He was driving home from a 12-hour clinical shift. He had $8 in his wallet. Calloway told him that was not enough. Terrence asked if he could come back with more. Calloway wrote him a citation for reckless driving. Terrence's nursing program required a clean driving record. He received a letter the following week. His clinical placement was under review. $8 short of a bribe he should never have been asked to pay. A career built on 12-hour shifts and night classes, cracking apart because a sergeant on a dark road decided he had not paid enough. The complaint Terrence filed was the 13th in the folder. Back in Washington, Isabel Ogden read it. She closed the folder. She picked up the phone and called her supervisor. "I do not need more complaints," she said. "I need to go down there myself." Her supervisor's name was David Parrish, 23 years at the Bureau. He had run civil rights investigations in Alabama, Mississippi, and South Carolina. He had seen patterns like this before. 13 complaints, Isabel said. Same road, same officer, same method. Internal Affairs cleared him. The DA's office will not touch it. Nobody down there is going to help us. Parrish leaned back in his chair. "What do you need?" "I need to be one of them. I drive the road. I get pulled over. I let him do what he does. And I record everything." Parrish was quiet for a moment. He understood what she was asking. An FBI agent alone on a dark road at night, facing a man who had spent 16 years doing whatever he wanted to black drivers without consequences. No backup on scene, no badge visible, just her and him and whatever he decided to do. "You understand the risk," Parrish said. It was not a question. "I understand the alternative," Isabel said. "Complaint number 14, 15, 16. We keep reading files while he keeps pulling people over." Parrish approved the operation the next day. The equipment was simple. A dashcam built into the rearview mirror housing standard-looking invisible unless someone knew to check. A body-worn audio recorder the size of a shirt button, sewn into the lining of a jacket. Both devices were FBI-issued, court-admissible, and tamper-stamped with date and time codes. If Calloway said it, the recorder would catch it. If Calloway did it, the dashcam would see it. Isabel drove a rented Honda Civic. Virginia plates registered under a cover name the Bureau had set up through a front company in Richmond. If Calloway ran her plates, he would find a clean record, a Richmond address, and nothing else. She arrived in Ridgemont on a Wednesday. She did not check into a motel. She did not talk to anyone. She drove straight to Route 9 and spent 2 hours learning the road. Every curve, every shoulder, every stretch without streetlights. She noted the pullover spots. She counted the gaps in the tree line where a cruiser could park unseen. Then she drove the full stretch end to end at exactly the speed limit. Nothing happened. She drove it again on Thursday, windows down, radio off, eyes on the rearview mirror. A cruiser passed her going the other direction. It did not slow down. Friday, nothing. Saturday night, she saw the cruiser parked in a dirt clearing near mile marker 4. Lights off, engine running. She passed it at 35 miles per hour. Her dashcam caught the outline of a man sitting behind the wheel. He did not pull her over. Isabel drove back to her motel. She sat on the bed and opened her laptop. She pulled up the complaint files and reread Terrence Odom's statement, then Marcus Redmond's, then Sharon Okafor's. All of them had been stopped after dark. All of them had been alone. All of them had been driving the speed limit or close to it. The pattern was not about traffic. It was about selection. Calloway chose his targets the way a predator chose its prey, isolated, vulnerable, and unlikely to fight back. Isabel closed the laptop. She would drive Route 9 again tomorrow night, and the night after that, however long it took. She was not in a hurry. She had learned something from the 13 people in that file. Patience was not weakness. It was the thing that kept you standing when the system told you to sit down. On the 6th night, it happened. Isabel was driving southbound on Route 9 past the county line, past the last street light. Her speed was 34 in a 35 zone. Her hands were relaxed on the wheel. Her jacket was zipped halfway, the audio recorder warm against her ribs. Blue and red filled her rearview mirror. She pulled over. Gravel crunched under her tires. She put the car in park and placed both hands on the steering wheel, exactly the way every complaint in the file described what the victims had done. Calloway appeared at her window. Flashlight first, then the voice. License and registration. She handed them over. He studied them for longer than necessary. Then he looked at her. "You know how fast you were going?" 34, Isabel said. He ignored the answer. He leaned in closer. She could smell coffee on his breath and cologne on his collar. "Here is what is going to happen," Calloway said. "I can write you up right now. Reckless driving. Failure to maintain lane. It goes on your record and it stays there. Or," he paused, "let the silence do the work. You can handle this right here." Isabel reached into her purse. She pulled out 2 20s, held them out. Calloway took the bills, folded them once, and slipped them into his chest pocket. He handed her documents back without looking at her. "Drive safe," he said, and walked away. Isabel sat in the car for a full minute after his cruiser pulled off. Her heart rate was elevated, not from fear, but from discipline. Every instinct she had as an agent told her to act, to reach for her badge, to end it right there. She did not. She put the car in drive and headed back to the motel. In her room, she removed the jacket, extracted the audio recorder, and plugged it into her laptop. The file was 43 seconds long. His voice was clear. Every word, the threat, the demand, the amount, captured in full. The dashcam had recorded his face, his hand reaching into the window, and the moment the bills disappeared into his pocket. One down. She needed more. The second stop came 4 days later. Same stretch, same routine. This time, Calloway was less patient. He did not bother with the speech about the citation. He walked to the window and said 5 words. 40, or I write you. Isabel paid. Calloway took the money and left. The entire encounter lasted 90 seconds. No pretense, no performance. Just a man collecting what he believed he was owed. That was what unsettled Isabel most. The first time he had played a role, the concerned officer giving a motorist a choice. By the second stop, he had dropped the act entirely. This was not a cop abusing his power in a moment of poor judgment. This was routine, a habit so deep it no longer required thought. The recorder caught every second. Between stops, Isabel was not idle. She drove Route 9 at different hours, mapping Calloway's patterns. He parked at the same dirt clearing near mile marker 4, always between 9 and midnight. He never stopped white drivers. Not once. She sat at a gas station on the Route 9 exit 3 separate nights and counted. In one night alone, 14 cars passed while Calloway was parked. He pulled over 3. All 3 driven by black motorists. The 11 he let pass, all white. She photographed the plates she could catch. Wrote the times down to the minute. A pattern so clean it looked like a shift schedule. One night, she pushed further. She parked her Civic on a side road 200 yards from the sheriff's substation. Engine off, watching the lot through binoculars. She wanted to confirm Calloway's shift times against the stop times. 20 minutes in headlights swept across her windshield. A cruiser turned onto the side road. Calloway's unit number on the door. He was coming back early. Isabel dropped below the dashboard. The cruiser rolled past at walking speed. Its spotlight swept the tree line, but missed her car by 10 feet. Calloway turned into the station lawn, parked, and went inside. She waited 12 minutes before starting her engine. She drove away with her headlights off until she reached the main road. Her hands were steady, her jaw was not. That was the first close call. Back in Washington, she called Parrish. 2 recordings, she told him, both clean, dashcam and audio. But I want a third. Different day, different amount. It kills any defense that it was a one-time lapse. How hot is the environment? Parrish asked. He is comfortable, Isabel said. He is not looking over his shoulder. He does not think anyone is watching. Keep it that way, Parrish said. One more stop, then we pull you out. The third stop came on a Tuesday night. This time, something was different. Calloway pulled her over at the usual spot, but when he walked to the window, he paused. He looked at the car longer than before. He looked at her longer than before. I have seen this car, he said. Isabel's pulse jumped. She kept her face still. "I drive this road for work," she said. "Property assessments. Richmond office." Calloway stared at her. Then he pulled out his phone and typed her plate number into the system. Isabel watched his eyes move across the screen. 5 seconds. 10. The cover held Richmond address, clean record, registered to a name she had never used before this operation. He put the phone away. 40, he said. She paid. He took the money, but before he left, he leaned back into the window. "Find a different road." His voice was flat, not a suggestion, a warning. Isabel drove back to the motel. Her hands were shaking for the first time since the operation began. Not because the cover had nearly broken, because she had looked into his eyes when he said those words, and she understood something the complaint files could not convey. He was not nervous. He was not careless. He was territorial. Route 9 was his, and anyone who showed up too often became a problem he would handle his own way. Okay, pause. She has 3 recordings and a cop who just told her to find a different road. Most people pack up right there, but she is not thinking about the tapes. She is thinking about his face on that witness stand, because that is where he falls. She sat on the edge of the motel bed and stared at the 3 audio files on her laptop screen. 3 stops, 3 recordings. Any prosecutor in the country would take this case right now. She could call Parrish, file the evidence, and be back in Washington by morning. But she kept thinking about Marcus Redmond sitting on a folding chair at the county board meeting, waiting for someone to ask him a question. She kept thinking about Terrence Odom's $8. She kept thinking about how Calloway had stood on that stage and shaken the sheriff's hand, and how nobody in that room had blinked. 3 recordings would put Calloway in prison for extortion. But extortion was what he did. Perjury was who he was. A man so certain of his own untouchability that he would lie under oath without hesitation. And that certainty, that arrogance was the thing Isabel wanted on the record, not just what he did on Route 9, what he would do in a courtroom when someone finally challenged him. The next morning, Isabel called Parrish. "I have 3 clean recordings, audio and video, but I want more than extortion charges." "What are you thinking?" Parrish asked. "We let the victims file a civil rights lawsuit. I go in as a witness, but he does not know who I am. He takes the stand and denies everything, under oath, and then we play the tapes." Parrish was silent for 10 seconds. "You are talking about perjury," he said. "I am talking about letting him do what he always does," Isabel said. "Lie, except this time it costs him everything." Meanwhile, 60 miles away, Marcus Redmond walked into a hardware store on Garrison Boulevard and asked about a stock clerk position. The manager looked at his application, saw the conviction, and shook his head. Marcus thanked him and left. It was the 4th job in 6 weeks. That afternoon, he parked across the street from Elijah's school. The bell rang at 3:15. Kids poured out in waves. Elijah walked past the car without looking. He did not know his grandfather was 15 feet away, watching him through a windshield, too ashamed to roll down the window and call his name. Marcus sat there until the sidewalk was empty. Then he drove back to Chester Street. He climbed the stairs to his room above the laundromat. The washing machines hummed below him. He sat on the edge of his bed, folded his hands, and stared at the wall. He did not know that 200 miles north, a woman he had never met was building a case that would give him his name back. The evidence sat on Isabel's desk in 3 neat stacks. Stack 1, 3 audio recordings, each one time-stamped, each one capturing the same voice, making the same demand on the same road. Different nights, different amounts, same man. Stack 2, 3 dashcam videos, each one showing a uniformed officer approaching a vehicle, leaning into the window and walking away with cash in his pocket. The angles were not perfect. The camera was built into the rear-view mirror housing, and Calloway's face was partially lit by his own flashlight, but the badge number was visible. The cruiser's unit number was visible, and in 2 of the 3 videos, the bills passing from her hand to his were visible. Stack 3, her observation logs. Dates, times, locations. Plate numbers of every car that passed while Calloway was parked at mile marker 4. 14 cars in one night. 3 pulled over, all black. 11 let through, all white. 3 nights of observation. The numbers did not vary. Isabel laid the 3 stacks side by side and looked at them. Any one of them would be enough to open an investigation. Together, they were a case. But she did not want a case. She wanted a conviction. And not just for extortion. She picked up the phone and called the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia. The prosecutor assigned was a woman named Catherine Bledsoe. Isabel had worked with her twice before, once in Norfolk, once in Charlottesville. Bledsoe was thorough, patient, and hard to impress. Isabel sent the files. Bledsoe reviewed them over 2 days. On the 3rd day, she called back. "The recordings are clean," Bledsoe said. "Chain of custody is solid. The dashcam corroborates the audio. The observation logs establish a pattern of racial targeting. This is enough for an arrest." "I do not want an arrest," Isabel said. "Not yet." Bledsoe was quiet. "If we arrest him now, he gets charged with extortion under color of law. Federal civil rights violation. He is looking at 5 to 8 years. And if we wait," Bledsoe asked, "we let the victims file a civil rights lawsuit. Calloway will have to respond. He will take the stand. And he will do what he has always done, lie." "Perjury," Bledsoe said. "Perjury on top of civil rights violations," Isabel said. "That is the difference between 8 years and 20. Bledsoe thought about it. She asked one question. "You are confident he will deny everything?" Isabel almost laughed. She thought about the man who had looked her in the eye on Route 9 and told her to find a different road. The man who had collected $40 from her 3 times without blinking. The man who had shaken the sheriff's hand on stage while his victims filed complaints that nobody read. "He has never admitted anything to anyone," Isabel said. "He is not going to start now." Bledsoe approved the strategy. Over the next 3 weeks, the FBI worked quietly. They contacted Diane Holloway, the civil rights attorney Marcus Redmond had found in Richmond. Holloway agreed to file the lawsuit on behalf of Marcus and 11 other victims. The complaint alleged systematic civil rights violations by Sergeant Derek Calloway, racial profiling, extortion, false charges, and abuse of authority on Route 9. Isabel's name appeared in the filing as a witness, listed under her cover identity. A woman who had been pulled over 3 times and forced to pay. Nothing in the document indicated she was law enforcement. Nothing indicated the recordings existed. The evidence was sealed, held back, waiting for one thing: his testimony. The lawsuit was served to Calloway on a Friday morning. A deputy handed him the papers at the substation. Calloway read the cover page, looked at the list of plaintiffs, and tossed the folder onto his desk. He told a colleague it was a nuisance suit. He said it would be dismissed within a month. He said the people filing it had no evidence, no credibility, and no chance. He was not worried. He had testified before in traffic court, in criminal proceedings, in internal reviews. Every time his word had been enough. Every time the other side had nothing. He had no reason to think this time would be different. He was wrong, but he did not know that yet. The courtroom was full. Marcus Redmond sat in the second row behind the plaintiff's table. He wore the same suit, the only one he owned. Diane Holloway sat beside him, her files organized in 2 folders. Behind them, 9 other plaintiffs filled the benches. Terrence Odom, Sharon Okafor, Darnell Price. People who had been told their word meant nothing, sitting in a room where words were supposed to mean everything. Calloway walked in like a man arriving at his own commendation ceremony. He wore his dress uniform, polished badge, pressed collar. He nodded to his attorney. He did not look at the plaintiffs. He did not look at the gallery. He sat down, adjusted his cuffs, and waited. When his attorney called him to the stand, Calloway stood up slowly. He placed his left hand on the Bible. He raised his right hand. He swore to tell the truth. And then he lied. He lied with the steady voice of a man who had done it before. He lied with the posture of someone who believed the room belonged to him. He looked at the judge and spoke the way he always spoke, with authority, with certainty, with the absolute confidence of a person who had never been caught. "I have served Ridgemont County for 16 years, Calloway said. "I have never accepted money from a motorist. I have never fabricated a citation. I have never targeted anyone based on race. These accusations are false, every single one of them." His attorney walked him through the complaints one by one. Calloway denied each one. Marcus Redmond denied. Terrence Odom denied. Sharon Okafor denied. Darnell Price denied. Each name, each story dismissed with the same flat certainty. Then his attorney asked about the woman listed as a witness, the one who claimed she had been stopped 3 times and forced to pay. Calloway leaned forward. "That woman is lying," he said. He pointed across the courtroom at Isabel, sitting at the end of the plaintiff's bench in a gray blazer. "She fabricated every accusation against me. I have never seen her before. I have never stopped her vehicle. I have never taken $1 from her or anyone else." He said it looking directly at her. His jaw was tight. His voice was rising. He was not just denying, he was attacking. Bury the accuser. Discredit the witness. The same strategy that had worked 14 times before. Isabel watched him speak. She did not move. She did not blink. She sat with her hands folded, her back straight, and waited. Calloway finished his testimony. His attorney thanked him. He stepped down from the stand and returned to his seat. He leaned over to his lawyer and whispered something. The lawyer nodded. Calloway sat back with his arms crossed. He thought it was over. Diane Holloway stood up. "Your Honor, the plaintiff calls our next witness." She turned toward the bench. "Would the witness please take the stand?" Isabel Ogden stood up. She walked to the front of the courtroom, every step measured, every breath controlled. She passed Calloway's table. He glanced at her. A flicker of recognition crossed his face. The car, the road, the plate number, but it was gone before it fully formed. She sat down in the witness chair. The clerk asked her to state her name. Isabel reached into her blazer. She pulled out a leather credential case and opened it flat on the witness stand. "My name is Isabel Ogden," she said. "I am a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation Civil Rights Division." The courtroom went silent. Not quiet silent, the kind of silence that happens when an entire room holds its breath at the same time. Calloway's arms uncrossed, his mouth opened slightly, his eyes locked on the badge. Isabel continued. Her voice did not waver. "Over the course of 6 weeks, I was stopped 3 times by Sergeant Derek Calloway on Route 9. Each time he demanded cash payment in exchange for not filing fabricated citations. Each encounter was recorded audio and video using FBI-issued surveillance equipment. The recordings are time-stamped, court admissible, and have been in the custody of the U.S. Attorney's Office since they were made." She looked at Calloway. "Every statement Sergeant Calloway just made under oath, that he never stopped me, never took money from me, never saw me before, is false, and I have the recordings to prove it." Calloway approached the bench with a laptop. She pressed play. Calloway's voice filled the courtroom, clear, unmistakable. 40, or I write you." The gallery erupted. Marcus Redmond pressed both hands flat on the bench in front of him. His lips were trembling, but his eyes were dry. Terrence Odom dropped his head into his hands. Sharon Okafor grabbed the arm of the woman sitting next to her and squeezed. Calloway sat frozen. His attorney was saying something to him, but he was not listening. He was staring at the badge on the witness stand, the badge that belonged to the woman he had told to find a different road. The second recording played, then the third. Each one the same voice, the same demand, the same road. By the time the third recording ended, Calloway's attorney had stopped talking. The judge had removed her glasses. and every person in that courtroom understood what had just happened. Derek Calloway had not been caught by an investigation. He had not been caught by a tipster or a surveillance team. He had been caught by his own testimony given 3 minutes ago, under oath in his own words, denying something that had been recorded from 3 different angles on 3 different nights. He had buried himself, and he had done it with his own voice. Catherine Bledsoe was waiting outside the courtroom. She had been there since the trial began, seated in the back row, a federal observer in a county proceeding, watching Calloway testify the way a chess player watches an opponent move into checkmate. When Isabel's recordings finished playing, Bledsoe stood up. She walked to the front of the courtroom, introduced herself to the judge, and presented a sealed federal indictment. The charges? Extortion under color of law, deprivation of civil rights, and perjury. The perjury count was based on the testimony Calloway had given less than 10 minutes earlier. His own words, his own voice, under his own oath. 2 federal marshals entered through the side door. Calloway did not resist. He did not speak. He stood up from his chair, and for the first time in 16 years, someone put handcuffs on him instead of the other way around. His attorney asked for a moment. The marshals gave him 30 seconds. Calloway's hands were shaking, not from fear, from the sudden total collapse of a reality he had built over 16 years. The reality where his word was final, where his badge meant immunity, where Route 9 belonged to him. That reality ended in a courtroom with his own voice playing from a laptop speaker. The marshals led him out through the side door. The gallery watched in silence. Marcus Redmond watched longest of all. Within 48 hours, the federal investigation expanded. The FBI subpoenaed Calloway's personnel records, shift logs, and citation history for the previous 6 years. The pattern Isabel had documented on Route 9 was not new. It was just the part she had seen. The record showed hundreds of traffic stops on that stretch of road. An internal review cross-referenced the stops with driver demographics. The results confirmed what 12 people had been saying for years. Calloway's stops targeted black drivers at a rate that could not be explained by traffic volume violation rates or chance. Every citation Calloway had issued on Route 9 was flagged for review. Every arrest he had made on that road was reopened. Every conviction that relied on his testimony alone was referred to the State Attorney General's office for potential reversal. The Ridgemont County Sheriff's Office issued a statement. It was 4 sentences long. It expressed concern about the allegations. It promised full cooperation with federal investigators. It did not mention Calloway by name. It did not apologize. But behind the statement, things were moving. The sheriff, the same man who had shaken Calloway's hand on stage 6 months earlier, quietly submitted his resignation. It was accepted the same day. No ceremony, no photo in the local paper. Just a 1-paragraph notice on the county website, posted at 11 o'clock on a Friday night. Internal Affairs, the same unit that had cleared Calloway on 12 complaints, was placed under external oversight. A federal monitor was assigned to review all use of force incidents, traffic stop data, and complaint processing for the next 3 years. The county board, the same board that had given Marcus Redmond 2 minutes and 40 seconds, held an emergency session. They voted unanimously to adopt 3 new policies. First, body cameras would be mandatory for all officers during all traffic stops, with no option to disable them. Second, any complaint alleging racial profiling would be automatically referred to an external review panel, bypassing internal affairs entirely. Third, all cash collected during roadside interactions would be prohibited. Any fine or fee would be processed through the court system only. The vote was unanimous. It took less than 15 minutes. The same board that had not asked Marcus a single question now could not pass reforms fast enough. 3 weeks later, the board held a public session to present the new policies. They invited community members to speak. Marcus Redmond was not on the list. He showed up anyway. He wore the same suit. He walked to the same microphone. This time, no one cut him off. The chair asked him if he had anything he wanted to add. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "I have been standing at this microphone for months," he said. "The only thing that changed is who was listening." The room was quiet. The chair nodded. She did not have a response. Marcus Redmond's case was the first to be reviewed. The State Attorney General's office examined the original arrest report, the trial transcript, and Calloway's testimony. There was no dashcam footage. Calloway had not been equipped with one. There was no body camera recording. There was no physical evidence. The entire conviction rested on one thing: Calloway's word. The same word that had just been proven false under oath in a federal courtroom. The conviction was vacated. The charge was dismissed. Marcus Redmond's record was cleared. His pension was reinstated with back pay covering the months it had been suspended. His landlord received a letter from the Attorney General's office confirming the reversal. His daughter received the same letter. Terrence Odom's reckless driving citation was thrown out. His nursing program received a formal notification that the charge had been fabricated. His clinical placement was restored. Darnell Price's impound record was expunged. Sharon Okafor's registration violation was removed from the DMV system. One by one, the false records were erased. Not because the system had caught its own mistake. Not because Internal Affairs had done its job. Not because the county board had listened when people came to speak. Because one woman drove the same dark road, paid the same unjust price, and recorded every second of it. And because a man in a witness stand believed his own lies so deeply that he told them one last time to the one person who could prove they were lies. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Marcus Redmond held it in both hands. He read it twice, standing in the hallway of the laundromat building, his back against the wall, the washing machines humming behind the thin door to his left. The Commonwealth of Virginia, Office of the Attorney General. Case number 22-CR-1140. Conviction vacated. Record expunged. All associated penalties and restrictions are hereby reversed effective immediately. He folded the letter carefully along its original creases. He put it in his shirt pocket. Then he sat down on the bottom step of the staircase and pressed his palms against his eyes. He did not cry. He had spent too many months holding himself together to let go now. But something inside his chest released a tightness he had carried so long he had forgotten it was there. The next morning he called his daughter. She did not say much. She did not need to. She told him to come over for dinner on Thursday. She told him Elijah had been asking about him. She told him the spare room was still his if he wanted it. Marcus said he would be there. On Thursday evening, he parked in front of his daughter's house for the first time in months. Not across the street, not with the engine off, watching through the windshield. In the driveway. He walked up the front steps and knocked. Elijah opened the door. The boy looked up at him. 9 years old, basketball jersey, socks with no shoes. He studied his grandfather's face the way children do when they are trying to match a memory to the person standing in front of them. "Grandpa." Marcus knelt down. He did not trust his voice, so he just nodded. Elijah stepped forward and wrapped both arms around his neck. He held on the way kids hold on when they do not fully understand what happened, but they know something important just got fixed. Marcus closed his eyes. He put one hand on the back of Elijah's head and held him there. They stayed like that until Marcus's daughter appeared in the doorway. She did not interrupt. She leaned against the frame and let them have the moment. Dinner was simple. Rice, baked chicken, green beans from a can. Elijah talked the entire time about basketball practice, about a kid named Deshaun who could dribble behind his back, about a science project involving volcanoes. Marcus listened to every word. He ate slowly. He was in no rush to be anywhere. After dinner, Elijah asked him a question. "Grandpa, can you walk me to school tomorrow?" Marcus looked at his daughter. She nodded. "Yes," Marcus said. "I can do that." 60 miles south, Terrence Odom received an email from his nursing program director. His clinical placement had been reinstated. The reckless driving citation had been removed from his record. He was expected at the hospital the following Monday at 6 in the morning. Terrence read the email 3 times. Then he called his mother. She answered on the first ring she always did. He told her the news. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I told you it was going to work out." Her voice cracked on the last word, but neither of them mentioned it. Darnell Price got his van back. The impound fees were waived. His former employer did not rehire him. Too much time had passed. The position was filled. But Darnell took the clean record to a delivery company in the next county. They hired him on the spot. He started the following week. Sharon Okafor's client, the one she had lost, had already found another aide. Sharon did not get that job back. But the DMV sent her a corrected registration and the violation was erased from the system. She framed the correction notice and hung it in her kitchen. Not because it was valuable, because it was proof that someone somewhere had finally said, "You were right." In Washington, Isabel Ogden filed her final report on the Ridgemont case. 14 pages. She attached the audio files, the dashcam footage, the observation logs, and the federal indictment. She closed the folder and placed it in the outgoing tray on her desk. She did not celebrate. She opened the next file in her stack, a complaint from a county in North Carolina. Same type of pattern, different road, different badge. She picked up her pen and started reading. The next morning, Marcus Redmond woke up early. He shaved. He put on a clean shirt. He ate breakfast at his daughter's kitchen table. Toast, coffee, a glass of orange juice Elijah poured for him and only spilled a little. At 7:45, they walked out the front door together. Elijah carried his backpack with both straps on. Marcus walked beside him, hands in his pockets, matching the boy's pace. They did not talk much. Elijah pointed out a dog behind a fence. Marcus told him the breed. Elijah said he wanted one. Marcus said they would talk about it. 3 blocks. That was the distance from the house to the school. 3 blocks of sidewalk, morning sun, and a 9-year-old boy walking next to a grandfather he had almost forgotten. Marcus stopped at the school gate. Elijah looked up at him. "Same time tomorrow." "Same time tomorrow," Marcus said. He watched Elijah disappear inside. He stood there a moment longer. Then he turned and walked home. That evening, Marcus drove Route 9 for the first time since his conviction. The road looked different. New streetlights lined the stretch past the county line. The dirt clearing at mile marker 4 was empty. No cruiser, no flashing lights, just gravel where a man used to sit in the dark and wait. Marcus drove the full stretch without stopping. Windows down, speed limit. Nobody pulled him over. Nobody asked him to pay. He was just a man driving home. Derek Calloway's testimony that day was the last official statement he ever made as a law enforcement officer. He used his own words to deny what he had done, and his own words proved he was lying. Some people are brought down by what others say about them. Calloway was brought down by what he said about himself. If you have ever watched someone abuse their power and wondered whether speaking up would make a difference, 12 people in Ridgemont filed complaints that went nowhere for years, but they kept filing, they kept showing up, and eventually someone heard them. Your voice matters, even when the room is not ready to listen. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. The credit you get is often built on someone else's silence. For a parent who took the smaller job, a mentor who never took the mic. When you finally have the platform, break their silence. Say their name loud.